We're not going to go like this.
Mr. Jaguar on that hat. That's good.
Oh, well, I am just terrified of getting scalped.
Well, that is a fair claim. Any man has more hair than wit.
Yeah.
Now, I would care to ask if you have a moment. I find myself with wonderful silence on this speaker.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask just your current update not necessarily fully speaking on behalf, but with your expertise, the movement as it stands. I did hear through the grapevine that the Adventure Church has yet to file a motion against the city.
That is correct.
And I find that strange. We're more than 3 weeks past the vote for the city to purchase.
Yes.
McCormick & Bostow is a prestigious, from my understanding, is a prestigious law firm. It would take 48 hours to file a motion. Why has it taken so long?
Well,
why is it taking so long, rather?
Well, what's interesting is if you look at the court filings for an existing lawsuit where Adventure Church is suing the Tower Theater, and, well, the Tower Theater put a filing out 2 weeks ago, or over a week ago, that, well, they basically lay out all the ways that Adventure Church doesn't really have a case about how they were harmed by the sale of the building.
That is correct.
They never owned the building. They attempted to purchase it. They couldn't afford to buy it just outright. They were dependent on financing. As soon as Sequoia sued to enforce their right of first refusal, the Liz pendants came down and Adventure's financing dried up because no lender was going to take on something that risky. So escrow failed over a year ago.
So approximately March 21st, 2021, I believe.
Yeah. And so what's their standing? To sue anyone. They've not really been substantially injured in any way. They lost an opportunity to buy a building, but that happens all the time in commercial real estate. And, in the meantime, I've spoken to Lawrence Abadi about this. He says that the church doesn't even have a rental agreement with them. They are renting week to week, according
each
to
week to each week.
Yes.
So I'm not familiar with real estate law in California. Would termination require any 30-day notice whatsoever? Or would it simply be at midnight on Sunday morning, get out?
I don't know that. I don't know that either. But there's certainly no legal objection to. There's no whatever the cutoff date is. Maybe it's 30 days. Maybe it's not. There's nothing stopping Abadi or the city from asking Adventure Church to leave. Personally, I don't have any evidence for this, but this is what I would like to happen, is when the city does complete its escrow and takes possession of the theater, it would be great if the city would then institute new policies. And I think, whenever you have a new owner taking over a building where there are existing rentals, I think the new owner has got a right to review those rentals and see what's appropriate.
So, and that is something I am curious. Down this timeline, should the purchase go unhindered, and the city is then one day in possession of this facility, do you have any knowledge of how they do go about deciding fairly that we wish to rent to these individuals, we do not wish to rent to these individuals who may be Adventure Church? How does one go about saying we don't want Adventure Church here as a neutral city?
Well, my understanding is that if this is a city-owned facility, it must be open to religious organizations, but it has to be open to all religious organizations equally.
All right.
So, once it is a city facility, if Adventure Church wants to rent it from time to time, I would not have any objections to that. But I would insist that if it's going to be rented to religious organizations, it must be available to all religious organizations.
I see. Oh, so it must be available to. I suppose there is a reasonable spread of denominations. It must be open to Christians of some denomination, Muslim and Jewish and Buddhist and other.
Yeah, and Fresno actually has some of the greatest religious diversity in the entire country.
Ethnic and racial diversity.
Yes. We've got every kind of Christian here. We have many Protestant sects. We have Episcopalians, Catholics, Orthodox. We have Jews, we have Muslims, we have Sikhs, we have Buddhists. Certainly. There's a wide variety of religious communities here, and if it's owned by the city and the city must make it available to all under the First Amendment. I think all of those groups should be welcome here at the Tower Theater.
And now one more question I do have. With the city one day perhaps owning it, hopefully owning it, what is the coalescence between them owning it and it being open to all religious opportunities, and that zoning law forbidding religious services, but as well those the term you used months earlier, a club like the Freemasons or something. How does that jive?
My understanding, and keep in mind I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding is that once it's owned by the city, it becomes a city facility, and the city has powers to sort of like create a zone where zoning is suspended. Yeah, it becomes a carve out in itself. But again, also, this is my understanding. If you have religious groups meeting there because of this city carve-out, this will not affect the liquor licenses and conditional use permits of the surrounding businesses, which is a crucial issue for us.
Certainly, absolutely. And for the economic stability and economic thriving of this local community. Okay, that is interesting. And I suppose I don't have any further questions. That's a fantastic update. But it's I am curious. They've made very bold claims that the escrow has not ended. That the fact that they have a deposit somewhere in a bank somewhere still gives them claims. They seem quite forward about the fact that 21st date was not a deadline. Do you have any answers in refuting of that? I've seen emails of them trying to negotiate new deals past March. I've seen emails of them trying to negotiate new deals with Fresno real estate company. But like, do you have any rebuttal to those very venomous claims that they still have a stake in this?
Well, I would recommend that you go to the Fresno County Superior Court website and look up the last filing that the Tower Theater's attorneys made in response to Adventure's lawsuit against the Tower Theater. And among other things, they lay out the timeline of how escrow failed. And certainly, the Tower Theater's attorneys wrote to the escrow company requesting that escrow be closed.
Certainly.
And so, if the whole thing at that point, last March, the whole thing was already tied up in the Sequoia lawsuit. I believe there was already a lis pendens on the property. The property simply could not be sold before a settlement with Sequoia was reached. And so the property simply wasn't sellable on that basis. And at that point, the sale is not completed. The sale cannot be completed. The owner of the Tower Theater, Lawrence Abadi, decided that he would prefer to withdraw it from the market then. And what he said at the time is, we are withdrawing it from the market and we'll look at other options. So to me, that sounds very much like that contract failed, that escrow failed.
And the hope or the opinion that may or may not prevail in court is that tied up legal case slowing things down, air quotes, with Sequoia, that is not the fault of anyone. The fact that escrow expired and you were tied up, one Adventure Church was tied up in a legal battle separate from the theater.
Yes.
That is that's not anyone's problem, not the court's problem, not Adventure Church, not Tower Theater's problem.
Right. It's actually what I've heard from some people is that Adventure Church really doesn't have any standing to sue, either to sue the Tower Theater or to sue the city, because certainly by the time the city bought it, Lawrence Abadi was actively looking for another buyer. And that's why he went to the city. And so, they don't really have a say. If their deal cannot go through, they really don't have any standing to say that the owner cannot sell it to another buyer. And they had to settle with Sequoia, and this, I believe, is probably a condition that Sequoia put in. But, this is the way deals get made.
It is the prerogative of the seller to withdraw if it's within their rights to withdraw.
Yeah, and now, Adventure Church might have a very legitimate claim that Lawrence Abadi did not tell them the full truth about Sequoia's first right of refusal, but also Adventure Church has an obligation to look out for its own interests. And if you are going to buy a commercial property that has commercial renters
and agreements,
and you are not going to examine those contracts carefully before you agree to buy the property, that's on you.
Certainly.
You know?
Better legal counsel may be required.
Yeah, I mean, caveat emptor here. So yeah, they might have legit beef against a body, but they really don't have any standing to interfere with the sale of the theater to the city.
And then the last question I will ask, unfortunately, John Brown's body cam was unable to be down in Fresno for that city council meeting that happened, I believe, this past Thursday.
Yes.
And there was talk of a council vote to remove indemnification.
Yes.
For Abate and for the Tower Theater and the Sequoia.
Yes.
And there was also talk of subpoenaing for the first time in Fresno Charter history.
Yes.
Subpoenaing Mr. Abate. And I heard that simply was quietly removed from the agenda.
Well, not so quietly.
I was not there.
Yeah, no, it was tabled by a 4-2 vote. So a majority of the council, did not want to bring this up. And I believe the president of the council told the councilman who sponsored that agenda item that he was simply picking at a scab. All of this was discussed extensively in closed-door sessions. If, the council wanted to shape this deal in any way, they had every opportunity. These last-minute, after-the-fact quibbles are, I believe, just political grandstanding from a conservative council member who simply wants to play to the gallery.
Right. A stunt, if you will.
Yeah. Oh, totally a stunt.
Okay, I thank you kindly for your time, Mr. Jaguar.
Thank you.
As always, please let us know if we can do anything to be of assistance or to not be a hindrance.
You guys are doing great. Thank you.
Thank you kindly.